Top 10 gemstones too beautiful to be real. Some things in nature are beautiful. And then there are things that feel like nature glitched. Fragments of rainbow sealed inside rock, lightning bottled underground, auroras that refuse to live in the sky, so they hid in stone instead. Scientists call them minerals. Collectors call them miracles. And anyone who's ever seen them up close whispers the same first question: how can that be real? These 10 gemstones do not simply shine. They defy expectation. Bending light, distorting color, tearing a hole between science and wonder. Some glow as if lit from within. Some look carved from cosmic fire. Others appear too perfect, too enchanting, too strange to exist on this earth at all. Beneath volcanic deserts, under ancient oceans, inside mountains scarred by ice and time, beauty has been quietly brewing in impossible colors, impossible textures, impossible truths. Today, we open those hidden worlds, not to explain them, but to witness them. Because if gemstones are Earth's memories, these are the dreams it never meant to share. Welcome to the top 10 gemstones too beautiful to be real. Look closely and prepare to question what natural really means. Ranked 10th, Fluorite, Rainbow Phantom, Rainbow Frozen in Crystal. In the high ribs of the ancient Earth, where mineral currents once surged then stilled, fluorite does not form all at once. It accumulates in quiet intervals. Each pause leaves a boundary, a line of color. Each return of hydrothermal flow begins another chapter. Layer by layer, season by geological season, bands of violet, mint green, amber, rose, and crystalline white rise like stacked horizons. It is not the riot of an opal, nor the single-tone serenity of jade. It is time, visible. A fluorite without phantoms is simply beautiful. A fluorite with phantoms feels conscious. Ancient Chinese craftsmen called brightly banded fluorite frozen dragon breath. In Europe, alchemists sealed pieces inside wooden cabinets, convinced each stripe held testimony of a different era of the earth. A mineralized archive no philosopher had yet translated. In Derbyshire, a particularly rare banded form emerged. Locals nicknamed it Blue John, perhaps from bleu et jaune, blue and yellow, a color pairing so improbable that early miners believed it was earth pretending to be sky. Cut into domed cabochons, the colors drift like lanterns on still water. Under microscopy, phantoms march in parallel, like staff lines awaiting a melody never played. Under ultraviolet light, subtle glows escape, the crystal exhaling history in wavelengths the naked eye cannot fully hold. Science sees fluorite as the mineral that advanced optics. Its clarity once prized for spectroscopes, lenses, ultraviolet experiments. Collectors see the phantom variety as something else entirely, memory that learned how to shine. Some crystals appear dull until rotated. Then, in a single angle, a drowned rainbow resurfaces, a fleeting confession from the Earth's diary. No drama, no demand for attention. Just a moment, then silence. Beauty not meant to be owned, only noticed. There are stones that proclaim themselves. This one whispers, "You cannot hurry wonder. You must arrive when it appears." For those who arrive too late, it is only stone again. The color retreats, the memory reseals, the spell ends. Light, when layered, becomes memory. But the next stone does not store it. It tries to escape. Ranked 9th, Himalayan Phantom Quartz. The rainbow written in altitude. High in the Himalayas, where air thins and sound arrives late, there are places where stone forms slower than breath. Glaciers crawl, avalanches erase, and time moves not as years but as weight. Quartz found here is not simply clear. Inside some crystals lie phantoms, faint mountains inside a mountain, each marking a pause in growth. A quartz crystal rises. Then the climate shifts. Dust settles, iron touches silica, the mineral sleeps. Later, when meltwater returns, it rises again, bearing its past shape inside itself. A crystal remembering the shape it once was. Not metaphor, structure. The phantoms appear as pale silhouettes, Smoky peaks, moss-green bands, milky ridges, repeating upward like echoes of altitude. Unlike fluorite's colors, these are not layered deliberately by chemistry, but imposed by hardship. Ash from glacial bursts, impurities carried by stormwater. Wind-borne minerals dropped by clouds scraping the world's ceiling. To hold one is to hold weather. Local collectors speak softly when recounting the origins. Not mystical, but respectful, as though discussing something that prefers silence. In Nepal, traders name them Sumeru Mani, jewels of the world mountain, a reference to Mount Meru, the axis of ancient cosmology. Not because they believed the crystals held power, but because their geometry, rising, pausing, rising again, resembled a pilgrimage of stone. Mountains create pilgrims. Here, stone becomes pilgrim. Geologists call the effect episodic growth zoning. Villagers call it memory caught in ice breath. Both are true. During 20th century mountaineering expeditions, climbers sometimes returned not just with photographs and frostbite, but with shards of quartz gifted by locals. Not as exotic specimens, but as symbols of patience. Hardship measured not in suffering, but in persistence. A Himalayan phantom is rarely flawless. Inclusions stain its core. Tiny fractures ripple the transparency. Some crystals contain chlorite, mossy like alpine pastures trapped inside. Others display faint prismatic rainbows at stress lines, scars turning into light. Gem cutters often refuse to polish them aggressively. Too much perfection would erase the story. In markets in Kathmandu and Dharamshala, traders do not shout to attract buyers. Stones rest quietly in cloth. A real one, with clear phantom growth rings and high-altitude provenance, may cost more than tourmaline or sapphire. Not because of brilliance, but because it cannot be rushed, faked, or repeated. To see its beauty requires holding it slowly to light, letting the inner peaks align, silhouette after silhouette rising like ancient prayer flags fading in wind. It asks patience, the same patience that built it. A stone that reflects nothing urgent, nothing loud, only the belief that endurance can be radiant. When rotated, the phantom peaks sometimes disappear entirely. Then with a fraction of tilt, they return. Faint, shy, insistent. A reminder that even mountains vanish in cloud, yet remain. Those who hurry see only clear quartz. Those who pause see history layered in transparency. Memory in stone, altitude in transparency. Now the journey descends from peaks into depth, toward a gemstone forged not by height, but by heat beneath a continent's oldest roots. Ranked 8th, Tanzanite. A violet born from lightning and mountain. Along the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro, there is a valley where the earth once tore itself open, not in anger, but in molten creativity. There, beneath layers of metamorphic rock older than the Himalayas, a rare alchemy took place. Heat from the mantle, pressure from shifting plates, and traces of vanadium dissolved in ancient fluids. Out of that turbulence, a mineral formed that did not yet know its destiny. It lay hidden for millions of years. A blue-gray stone, unremarkable to most eyes. Not sapphire, not amethyst. Something between, and yet neither. Then lightning struck the plains. Local accounts speak not in scientific measurement but in memory, of times when storms rolled like living beasts, when thunder crawled across rock, when fire leapt from the sky and kissed the earth. Heat seared the buried stone. A transformation began. What was once muted became cosmic, blue and violet woven like dusk meeting midnight, a gradient so deep it seems to hold stars inside. Later, gemologists would explain, thermal change activated vanadium, shifting absorption bands. But long before laboratories, herders found these stones after storms and wondered why the sky had left fragments of itself behind. A Maasai elder is recorded saying, "When the mountain breathes fire, the ground remembers lightning." They called it a stone of birth, not of wealth, but of transition. Blue like the sky a soul leaves behind, violet like twilight before a journey, it became a symbol of beginnings. Unlike other gemstones, Tanzanite has only one birthplace, a narrow strip of land near Merlani, no wider than a few footsteps on a map. Geology calls this rarity. People living there call it destiny. By the time the outside world learned its name, in the late 1960s, the gem had already lived a lifetime in silence. It would become coveted, set in platinum, featured in auction houses, spoken in the same breath as diamonds and emeralds. But its most astonishing trait is not scarcity. Ranked 7th, Oregon Sunstone, stardust suspended in stone. In the high desert of Oregon, where volcanic plains stretch like forgotten seas and sagebrush trembles under distant thunder, there lies a mineral that carries the shimmer of a different sky, a stone with a quiet warmth, as if dawn were preserved inside it. Sunstone. To speak its name is to speak light, but here light is not simply reflected. It floats. Tiny copper platelets, scattered through feldspar like shattered embers, catch illumination the way memories catch breath. Turn it one way, it blushes. Turn it again, and sparks drift like dust in sunbeams through a cathedral. Some inclusions arrange themselves like constellations, others like falling embers frozen mid-flight. Gemologists call the effect aventurescence. Desert miners call it fire and stone. Ancient cultures across the Arctic world revered sunstone, though not always this variety. Viking legends whisper of crystals that guided seafarers by polar light, refracting sunlight through cloud and fog. But Oregon's sunstone is different, warmer, denser, carrying not navigation, but remembrance. A volcanic eruption 15 million years ago brought molten basalt rushing across this land. Copper mixed with feldspar in the furnace beneath the crust, atoms aligning into microscopic mirrors. When the lava cooled and fractured, crystals remained, not born in calm, but tempered in eruption. In a desert where the ground still feels the echo of fire, these stones rest beneath the surface like embers waiting to be discovered. Local tribes long noticed the glow. In Klamath oral tradition, a warrior wounded by an arrow stained the ground with his blood. Where it touched stone, the sun entered it. A myth not of conquest, but of sacrifice and light given willingly. On modern claims outside Plush, Oregon, miners work not in noisy syndicates, but in patient solitude. The desert gives nothing freely. Digging is steady, sifting slow, gloves worn thin under heat and dust. When sunstone emerges, it does not scream its beauty. Often pale, yellow peach or champagne, it waits for movement, for the right angle, the right sun, the right moment, before releasing its secret. Copper plates glimmer, not in steady shine, but in bursts like meteor showers. A gemstone that does not glow constantly, only when invited. Some stones contain schiller, a broad shimmer ranked 6th, Labradorite. Aurora trapped in stone. In the subarctic cliffs of Labrador and the ancient shields of Scandinavia, there are stones that appear ordinary, muted gray, blue as winter steel, sometimes dull as river-worn granite. But patience reveals what haste cannot. A flash, silent and sudden, as though the horizon cracked open and northern light leaked through. Labradorite. Before geology named it, stories did. In Inuit tradition, the aurora once flowed across the land like a living ribbon. A warrior struck the stone with his spear, freeing the lights to return to the sky. But some fragments remained, captured beneath the surface forever. Not superstition, but poetry built from observation. A myth searching for a mechanism. Centuries later, science offered language, not replacement. The phenomenon called labradorescence, light entering microlayers of feldspar, bending, scattering, recombining into metallic blues. Flame green, gold, violet. Not pigment, not reflection, interference. Color summoned by structure, not substance. A thin lamellae, repeated through time. The same geometry that builds seashell iridescence and butterfly wings, but here forged under pressure and ice. Held at the right angle, Labradorite burns with aurora fire. Tilt. And it goes cold again, plain, reserved, secretive. This gem never begs to be seen. It chooses when to reveal itself. Fragments found in Viking burials suggest not ornament, but symbol, a guide perhaps for journeys beyond mortal waters. Later in Russian courts, palace architects inlaid labradorite into columns and halls, not for sparkle, but for majesty that arrives suddenly, like revelation. In the trade, stones with sweeping electric blue are prized, yet the rarest show spectrum bands, orange, green, violet, like nebulae collapsing into prism. Collectors know the finest pieces by a simple ritual. They turn the stone slowly, waiting for the moment when shadow lifts and sky ignites. Those who rush see only stone. Those who pause watch light remember itself. In quarries near Nain and in the fjords of Norway, extraction is steady, deliberate. Tools strike rock, frost answers. The earth yields reluctantly, each piece a shard of silence broken open. Cutting labradorite is negotiation, not conquest. Wrong angle, light dies. Right angle, world unfolds. Polish too fiercely, and shimmer retreats. Gentle hands invite color forward, patient as winter thaw. Some stones hide flame until submerged in darkness. Under dim light, they burn brighter, as though the aurora only travels where night is welcome. In the studio, a cutter lifts a slab. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then, a sheet of blue erupts, a continent of color, born and gone in a breath. The stone returns to gray. Beauty here is not performance, it is permission. There are gemstones that shout. This one speaks in glances, a reminder that not all brilliance lives in constant bloom. Some beauty is made for those who wait, who look twice, who understand that even light has private moments. Some believe labradorite protects travelers of the unseen. Geology says it records pressure and heat. Both may be true, because every so often, it looks less like mineral and more like thought crystallizing into color. Light fades, color closes, breath slows, narration pauses, not ended, only held. The journey now turns deeper, from stones that catch light to stones that transform it. Next comes a gem once mistaken for sorcery, a mineral that lives two lives, never the same color twice. Ranked fifth, Rainbow Boulder Opal, a rainbow rooted in stone. Australia's dry heart holds a secret. Rainbow fire born not in sky, but in clay, iron, and bone-dry desert crust. Where cracked earth stretches beneath unpunished sun, where heat hums like electricity across horizon, there lies a gemstone that seems impossible. A rainbow rooted inside rock, Boulder Opal. Unlike other opals, it does not separate cleanly from its host. It grows into the stone that cradles it, veins of spectral color threading through brown ironstone like lightning trapped mid-strike. Here, beauty is not divorced from origin. Stone remains stone. Color does not dominate, it shares. If labradorite is a sky folded into crystal, Boulder Opal is sky poured into earth. To find it, miners carve through ironstone boulders, not seeking loose gems but slivers, rivers, seams. Sometimes no more than a whisper of blue, sometimes a violent eruption of neon flame. Blues like Pacific storm edges, greens like tropical shallows, orange and magenta like desert sunset reflected in heat haze, color that seems wet even in dust. Unlike polished jewels that seek symmetry, Boulder Opal embraces asymmetry, fracture, raw cut, geometry sculpted by drought, not by hand. In Aboriginal stories, the creator being walked across land carrying a rainbow. Where his feet touched, colors sank into earth, and the world awakened from stone to spirit. In those tales, opal is not ornament. It is memory of creation. The desert agrees. Even untouched, a nodular lump shows hints. Thin blue lines along fracture, tiny sparks shimmering against rust-brown host rock. A knife edge splits the stone, and a universe spills open. Some seams glimmer like galaxies stretched thin across darkness. Some flash in electric sheets, shimmering with parrot green and flame orange. And some remain humble, a whisper of color that needs shadow to appear. This stone does not seek perfection, it celebrates the fracture. It honors the matrix that sustained it. Like rivers in drought-lands, it flows where pressure demanded, not where cutters wished. Each specimen is a collaboration: ironstone in color, hardness and fluid, gravity and light. To polish Boulder opal is to risk losing its wildness. Too much removal, the rainbow dies. Too little, its fire remains entombed. So lapidaries move slowly, removing stone not to reveal gem, but to negotiate with light. There are gems praised for purity. This one is praised for rebellion. Color refusing to be hidden entirely. Stone refusing to let beauty detach from its source. Markets once overlooked Boulder opal. Today, connoisseurs chase it precisely because it does not imitate perfection. It is not uniform, not predictable, not obedient. It is earth remembering it once dreamed in color. Hold one under shade and nothing happens. Tilt, and a sheet of blue ignites. Tilt again. Green embers flare like fireflies in dusk. Turn further. A ribbon of red burns alive for a second, a secret shared too quickly to possess. Beauty here is not given. It appears for those willing to move slowly. When opal breaks, it breaks brilliantly, each fragment holding its own fragment of sky. Even broken, it refuses to surrender its color. Earth painted itself. Stone carried the sky. But some gems do not wait for color. They manufacture it, bending light until it becomes illusion. Next, the gemstone that sees two worlds and changes color to belong to both. Ranked fourth, Alexandrite. The stone that lives two lives. There are stones that shimmer and stones that burn, but Alexandrite is one that seems to think. Under morning light, it glows with deep forest green calm, quiet and composed like moss beneath ancient cedars. Yet as evening falls, it shifts into a theater red glow, the color of velvet curtains lowered at the end of a final act. This is not metaphor but physics, not illusion but behavior. Under daylight rich in blue wavelengths, chromium bends absorption toward green, and under warm lamplight, those same atoms surrender emerald to reveal wine-dark fire. It is a gem that mirrors the light it receives, living not one truth but two, and becoming whatever the moment demands. First found in the Ural Mountains in the 1830s, hidden in serpentinite veins and mica schist, it was mistaken for emerald until dusk exposed the deception. Green dissolving, red awakening like embers thought extinguished. To the miners, it felt less like discovering a mineral and more like witnessing an idea escaping from matter. Imperial Russia embraced it not merely for ornamentation, but for what they believed it symbolized. By day, loyalty, discipline, and empire. By night, power, blood, and the inevitability of change. Nature had created a jewel whose duality echoed the contradictions of a nation. Discipline and passion, order and rebellion, duty and destiny. As science progressed, gemologists fought to describe its nature. Rarer than sapphire, harder to find than diamond, born from a perfect collision of chemistry, heat, pressure, and timing so precise it borders on intention. Outside Russia, stones from Sri Lanka and Brazil glow softer. Gentle transitions, twilight color shifts like flowers turning toward dusk. Yet the finest Ural specimens remain unmatched. Green that feels alive, red that feels ceremonial, as if the gem carries memory of fire and frost. Alexandrite is not merely admired. It is studied, contemplated, quietly revered. Some stones lean emerald, others bleed garnet, and a rare few flicker between states with every breath of shadow. It does not perform, it responds. It reveals not itself but the world around it, proving that identity is not static but lit by circumstance. This is why collectors speak of it not in tones of greed but curiosity, as though the stone watches them back. Worn on the body, it does not scream wealth. It whispers secrets, and those who choose it seem to crave not attention, but comprehension. Hold one at dusk. Third place, Ammolite, fossil aurora. In a place where ancient seas once breathed and vanished, where mountains rose from ocean beds like memories forced back into daylight, there exists a gemstone that does not shimmer like crystal, nor blaze like fire. Yet when it awakens, It feels as if an aurora has been buried in the bones of time itself. Ammolite, born from ammonites, creatures that swam here millions of years ago, silent spiral architects drifting through prehistoric oceans. When they died, their shells sank into silt under a sky that no longer exists. Layer upon layer of mineral pressure sealed them in darkness, and at some unknown moment the ocean's fossil became the sky's light. Not glass, not crystal, shell turned spectral, biology fused with geology, life transforming into iridescence. The colors do not simply shine, they ripple like northern lights trapped in fossilized wind. Reds like volcanic dusk, greens like river reeds breathing in sunlit water. Blues, rare and shy like midnight rainbows glimpsed between storm clouds. And beyond even those, the rare dragon skin pattern, scales of color shifting like a myth, refusing to stay still. Indigenous Blackfoot communities once called it Inniskim, buffalo stone. They believed it brought vision, guidance, protection during hunts and hardship. Not superstition, but observation, a thing that seemed to hold movement in stillness, energy in fossil, sky in stone. Even untouched, unpolished fragments show flashes, as if the past is signaling through fractures. Ammolite breaks easily, fragile as an old story. Its strength lies not in hardness, but in resilience across epochs, in the improbable survival of color where no light touched. To prepare it, artisans do not fight the stone. They stabilize, preserve, respect. Too much force in the aurora crumbles back to dust. Too much polish and the living fire dulls. It is finished the way ancient scrolls are preserved, not altered, but revealed. In the auction world, select pieces rise to prices that defy expectation. Not because Ammolite demands prestige, but because it refuses to repeat itself. Each fossil is singular. Each pattern is history's fingerprint, never reprinted. Scientists map the interference layers, measure wavelengths, chart nanocrystal structures, and still the question lingers. How does something dead shine like birth? Under light, colors do not sit still. They chase across the surface like migrating flocks, like wind reshaping auroral curtains across polar night. Turn it once and crimson floods the shell like spilled garnet wine. Turn again and emerald surges through scales like jungle rain meeting dawn. Turn once more and all color collapses suddenly into dull brown fossil, as if the universe inhaled. Second place, Paraíba Tourmaline, electric blue glow. Beneath the red earth of Paraíba, where tropical heat presses into clay and veins of quartz hold dreams the world has not yet named, a spark once formed, an impossible blue, electric and cold, as if a fragment of lightning had forgotten to return to the sky. Paraíba Tourmaline is not the blue of ocean or sky. Those are natural colors, gentle, expected. This is the blue of charged current, of neon gas lit by invisible energy, of bioluminescence that should belong to deep-sea creatures or alien atmospheres rather than the hush of stone. Its discovery in the late 20th century feels almost mythic because the Earth should not have kept a secret this startling for so long. Miners in northeastern Brazil, hands raw from clay and drill vibration, unearthed crystals that glowed not by reflecting light, but by suggesting their own source, as though some inner battery pulsed beneath the surface. Copper, rare in tourmaline, nestled in the crystal lattice, its ions bending color toward electric aqua, pushing the spectrum beyond familiarity. In gem labs, spectrometers traced absorption peaks like heartbeats. Geologists debated improbable chemistry. Traders whispered that the Earth had invented a new shade to surprise itself. The moment Paraíba entered sunlight, markets reshaped, and collectors recalibrated rarity not by age or hardness, but by awe. Stones the size of raindrops commanded fortunes, because size was not the measure, luminosity was. In hand, even an uncut fragment looks like water charged with voltage, a tropical tide shocked awake by thunder. Some gems remind us of nature. This one feels engineered by wonder. Dealers search for more, chasing color across continents. Mozambique, Nigeria, new deposits, new arguments about provenance, new hunger. But true Paraíba, born of Brazilian soil and improbable geologic patience, remain the original flash, the heart of the current. Jewelers set it in platinum not for tradition, but for conductivity of illusion. Metal so cold it seems to amplify the gem's impossible glow. Museums describe it clinically: Cuprian tourmaline, trace elements, heat, pressure, pegmatite veins. But standing before one in person feels less like study and more like witnessing a thought made visible, an idea that escaped logic and chose pigment instead. Light enters and does not simply leave. It charges, vibrating in turquoise, teal, electric cyan, ultraviolet whisper. Turn it slightly and the glow intensifies as though angle were voltage. Turn farther and the light collapses, only to surge back the moment hope falters. It behaves like something alive, reluctant, brilliant, independent. Where diamond asserts authority and sapphire speaks of old kingdoms, Paraíba sings the future. A note in first place, black opal, rainbow in the dark. Deep beneath scorched Australian plains, where red earth breathes heat and silence stretches wider than horizon, there is a stone that does not reflect light, but bursts it out of darkness. Black opal, a night sky solidified, a fragment of void woven with electricity and rain, a universe compressed into a tear the earth once forgot to shed. Most gemstones are bright against brightness, but this one is different. Its canvas is shadow, its realm is absence, and color here does not decorate, it erupts. Look into it and the world recedes. Blues ripple like deep-sea currents under moonless tides. Neon greens flash like auroras, breaking polar winter. Embers of orange and red flicker like galaxies colliding in distant silence. No other mineral holds light this way. Trapped, not mirrored. Concealed, not offered. Released only when darkness agrees to share its secret. Geology tells the story in water and patience. Silica carried by ancient floods seeped into clay voids, layer by microscopic layer, spheres stacking in perfect order so improbable it feels like intention, each one bending photons until rainbow blooms out of blackness. But stories older than science walk here too. In Dreamtime lore, a rainbow serpent touched the land near Lightning Ridge, and color sank into the ground, hiding until those meant to see it arrived. Opal was not treasure, it was memory, sacred, untamed, a flicker of creation left behind. Miners who descend into the chalky strata speak of tunnels that pulse with heat, dust that clings to lungs like forgotten prayers, loneliness deeper than rock. They chase not veins but moments, thin pockets no wider than a hand, more fragile than faith. A wrong strike fractures centuries, a right one reveals a cosmos. The finest stones are not polished into obedience. They are shaped carefully, reverently, so their fire remains wild, unpredictable, alive. Tilt it once and stars scatter. Tilt again and color drowns, like the universe exhaling back into void. Some gemstones display beauty. Black opal withholds it, as if brilliance were privilege, not spectacle. It is a stone for those who understand that the night sky is not empty, but infinite, that darkness is not absence, but origin. Jewelers call it the king of opal. Collectors call it myth incarnate. Those who have seen a perfect one in silence simply stop speaking, as if language no longer fits the shape of wonder. Price is mentioned only in whispers, because value feels irrelevant. What number weighs a fragment of creation? Auction rooms dim lights when they reveal it, not for drama but respect. This is not a gem. When light leaves these stones, they return to silence. No flash, no theater, only the quiet memory of color waiting in darkness. Yet for a moment, we witness the impossible. Rainbows without rain, auroras without sky, stars held not in space, but in stone. They remind us that beauty is not always loud, and wonder does not always arrive in daylight. Some miracles prefer the deep earth, some secrets only speak in stillness, and sometimes the most unbelievable things are not inventions, but ancient truths we were never meant to see so clearly. If one of these gemstones stayed in your mind, tell us its name, not to rank them, but to remember which piece of the earth turned disbelief into awe for you. And as this light fades, hold one thought gently. There are still wonders buried in the world that no one has found yet, And when they surface, we will be here again, to witness the moment when reality looks like imagination. Until then, listen to the silence. It still glows.